Hi, welcome to IvyBrain, the talk show for entrepreneurs, where you send in your tough questions and we host experts who have the answers. I'm your host, Reena Jadhav. And on today's segment, we're talking about burnout, the disease of entrepreneurs. How do you get it? How do you prevent it? And we're going to take the test to find out if you've got it. Our expert for today's show is Dr. Roe Gallo. Dr. Gallo has a master's in health communication and a PhD in human sexuality. Welcome to the show, Dr. Gallo.
Thanks, Reena.
So what is burnout and why should we care?
Burnout is an accumulation of stress in our bodies. And we should care because it's killing us, literally.
Are you telling me that if I sleep 2-3 hours a night and I drink 4 or 5 cups of coffee and I'm in a general state of panic, I'm going to die?
Probably. Sounds pretty bad.
Okay. Huh? Well, I hear Japanese have coined a word for it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yes. The Japanese have coined a word for it. What is it? It is karoshiki.
Okay.
And they found out that 10,000 people, business people, die a year from what they call karoshiki. And what it is dying from overwork. And
listen to her, you entrepreneurs, okay?
Dying from overwork. And America, the United States, is catching up with Japan.
Huh.
We spend 46% of our healthcare costs are for stress-related diseases, and $600 billion a year goes for stress-related diseases. And this doesn't even account for the physiological stress like heart attacks and strokes and high blood pressure.
It's a serious problem.
It is
a serious problem. So how do I know that I'm burning out? How do I know it's not just normal stress and that I'm actually burning out?
Okay, well, first of all, stress isn't going to kill you. We're all in stressful situations. It's not the stress that's on the outside. It's the stress you take into your body. So it's how we deal with stress that causes the burnout.
And how do I know if I'm dealing with it well or not?
Well, we could take a test and see if you got it.
Okay. Are you ready to take the test? Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, you ready? Okay. Now, do you suffer from chronic fatigue? Are you usually tired, burned out, feeling anxious, physically run down?
I'm not going to answer. Continue.
No. Have you become more angry lately, more irritable, less patient? Do you explode at little things? Okay. Do you experience self-criticism by putting demands on yourself or by other people putting demands on you? Have you become more cynical, critical, and sarcastic? Generally more negative lately.
As opposed to being born that way, right?
As opposed to being born that way. Just become more of that. Okay.
Okay.
Do you get frequent headaches? Do you suffer from gastrointestinal problems? Do you have pains in your neck?
Well, that would be the entire Silicon Valley. I hear the sales of Pepto-Bismol
That's right.
are peak in Silicon Valley. So, okay.
Pepto-Bismol is peak. Why? Burnout. Do you have your sleep habits changed? That's a big thing. Sleep and your appetite. Have you lost the ability to experience joy? Do you suffer from depression? Do you experience feelings of helplessness? Or do you think that the things around you are insurmountable? Have you seen an increase in your risk-taking? That's a big one that people don't think about. Okay?
These are really good ones. I'll be surprised if, half of us who are watching the show don't nod to most of these questions that you've asked, and that is, I think, a little bit surprising to me. Some of these symptoms are not the kind of symptoms I would have expected, but I can certainly relate with them.
Right.
So let's say I have some level of burnout.
Well, if you've answered yes to even one of these questions, I mean, when you look at the seriousness of the questions, you are definitely going into burnout. If you answered yes to 3 of them, it's a serious problem.
Okay.
And most people answer yes to much more than that.
I think so.
Yeah.
So what would be some ways of dealing with burnout?
Dealing with burnout, the first thing to do is recognize that you're in burnout. Recognize the symptoms. So taking this test would be a good idea. Taking this test would be a great idea.
Okay.
Recognizing the symptoms and then learning to, knowing that you're in burnout, acknowledging it. That's a big thing for most people. Most people, when they're in burnout, they they don't acknowledge it. They won't admit it because as far as they know, they're fine. This is just normal. And for most people, especially what you were saying in Silicon Valley with the Pepto-Bismol thing,
right,
it is normal.
Right.
It's normal. It's not natural.
Right.
It's not healthy, but it's definitely normal.
Okay.
Okay. Taking a little bit of time, a time out for yourself during the day, even if it's 5 minutes, just to regroup, to breathe, to close your eyes, think of a pleasant, happy thought, something that you've experienced before that makes you happy, or ask yourself an empowering question.
Is there a time of day when that is ideal? Should it be this 5-minute break in the beginning of the day, middle of the day, the end of the day? When does stress peak?
It peaks constant. You know, you watch. You know yourself as being an entrepreneur. Some people have their stress in the middle of the night. That's why it affects their sleep.
Okay.
And so they wake up in the middle of the night with stress. They wake up in the morning thinking about stressful things. So
do it when it's right for you. Do it when you're panicking or when you're in stress mode.
Right. And anytime you think about it, even if it's a minute, even if it's a second, just to close your eyes for a second and breathe and regroup. It really helps.
Okay. I think I'll add that one to my list of to-dos
really helps.
Tomorrow. Okay.
And then the other thing is to start changing your behaviors, and that's what we do. Get help and change your behaviors.
Okay. Okay. So tell me a little bit about, before the show we were talking about something you call peak performance.
That's right.
What is peak performance, and how does burnout prevent peak performance? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, when you're in peak performance, you're not in burnout. So think about that. If most people are experiencing burnout, they are not experiencing peak performance. Peak performance is when you're operating at the top of your game, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Okay.
Okay.
And I know VCs should listen to this one because it's important for the team, for the executive team, to be at peak performance for the company to succeed.
It's amazing how we make money in spite of ourselves.
That is very true.
But just think of how much more we can do if we were playing at peak performance.
Right.
This one executive, he experienced burnout really bad, and he got back and he made himself successful again. And he was talking about the key to his success were two things. When people came into his office with a problem, whether it was something good or whether it was something that was seemingly bad, he would say, "Great." And then he would go on and figure out a way to make it great.
Interesting.
Make it great. And the other thing that was the major key, he said, to his success is when he woke up in the morning, he opened his eyes and he said, "I'm above ground. It's a great day."
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
So if I'm alive,
it's a good day.
It's a great day. How can you go wrong? Nothing that could happen during the day could interfere with that unless you die, and then it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter anyway. Well, I think it is actually a very interesting perspective on how we relatively look at the things that come across our way on a daily basis. A health issue, a serious health issue, versus a key executive quitting versus a deal falling through. And I think we almost panic at the same rate.
Right.
When really the severity of the situation is quite different. Right. We should be panicking a lot more when a loved one is seriously sick versus when a deal falls through. And yet I don't think we're tuned to reacting differently. I think we end up reacting pretty severely to some of the smaller issues that we face on a daily basis. And I think what you're sharing is brilliant, which is change your perspective.
Right. And what you said was the key thing. You said, we panic when, and you gave all these examples. But you used the word, we panic, right? Use those words, right?
Yep.
Instead of going into problem-solving mode. Problem-solving mode, you can work 20 hours a day and be healthy. As long as when you rest completely.
Okay.
But the thing is, what we usually do, we're in panic mode. Oh, this is not going to happen. This deal's going to fall through.
Yep.
Somebody's going to.
That's right.
We're in panic mode, right? But if we go into problem-solving mode, like that executive, he says he figures out a way to make it great. He goes into problem-solving mode. It's healthy. It's creative. It's not stressful.
Now, admittedly, this is easier said than done.
Yes.
I've been there.
Yes.
I've tried that. And we know that it is difficult in the moment of a situation like that, it is very difficult to learn to control yourself. And I think there's a lot of what you're talking about is self-control and mind control and positive thinking. And I think a lot of that is learned through self-management, because I know it's not natural to me. Which I guess is a different segment of how do you learn to train yourself to constantly think positive and constantly manage yourself better, your emotions better.
And that's what we do in our company.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we go out to organizations and work from the executive team down.
Okay.
Evaluate where people are right now. So we do a survey, find out the benchmark, where they are.
Okay.
Okay. Then we develop a plan that's going to get them from where they are to maximum peak performance.
Okay.
Right? And then a step-by-step program over the course of the months to get them and keep them on the plan.
Okay.
And an accountability program for the plan. Right? And so eventually, and then coming back in, doing individual sessions with people that want to do it that's completely, private.
Okay.
And I think you had asked me once before about whose responsibility was it.
Right.
And the responsibility, think about it, you had said that you were stressed at one point and you didn't even realize it. And if somebody had told you were stressed, you would have said, no way.
To share the example, 6-7 years ago, I was burnt out and had someone come up to me at that point and said, you meet the symptoms of being a burnt out entrepreneur. I would have denied it. I would have said, no, this is my normal style of functioning.
Right.
And I think you're bringing that point up to say that sometimes we will not acknowledge, we will not self-acknowledge. Right. And so the question is, who comes in to provide help at that critical point to entrepreneurs and executives in the company?
Well, it's the responsibility of the CEO. But sometimes the CEOs are burnt out.
Right.
Right?
What do you do then?
So how are they going to recognize that? So then it goes to the board. It's up to the board. What they want is a profitable company.
Right.
Come on. I mean, that's why you're working, right? You want profitability. Profitability isn't going to happen if you're losing your executive team and the people that work for them on a daily basis because they're stressed out or they're dead.
Right. Yeah, that would be sad.
How many people do you know just in the past couple months that have had heart attacks due to stress?
Okay, that's a very serious topic.
It's a very serious topic, right? And it's common.
Yes.
Okay, and so so having somebody on board that is neutral, a neutral party that comes in and evaluates the employees, starting, like I said, from the executive team, maybe even the board.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe even the board, and so to provide a neutral base.
Okay.
So if you were in a company when you were stressed out and burnt out, right, and they had somebody coming in and working with you on a monthly basis, asking you these questions, giving you tips of maintaining, calm and getting you to peak performance, how would that have affected you?
It certainly would have helped the situation tremendously. And is your program for C-level executives or is it for the entire company?
It's for the entire company.
Okay.
We even start with the executive team.
Okay.
Because when the executives are at peak performance, then they know how to coach their employees to be peak performers.
That does make sense.
So, you go from the executives to the managers to the employees. It's, it goes down. But so that's why we start with the executives. Sometimes we don't even have to come out at the other levels because it bumps right down. Just like if the executives are stressed, it's going to bump down through the company.
Okay. Well, we're at the close of our show. Give us a tip, Dr. Roe, before you leave us.
One of the things for burnout is being the victim. If you feel like you're a victim, like you're not in control. So a tip would be an empowering belief.
Okay.
I am in control of everything in my life because I am in control of how I respond to it. Things happen all around us, you know that, on a day-to-day basis that we have no control of. But we're always in control of how we respond to it. And if we put that on our beliefs, just like every day above ground is a great day, then we're going to feel empowered instead of as victims. It's going to prevent stress.
That's a very intelligent tip for the week. Thank you so much. I'm going to work on that tip and come up with my core belief and see how that works for me. I hope you'll do the same. Thank you for joining us for this segment of Ivy Brain. Thank you for watching, and keep winning.